In this Gold Belt video, I will show how to test a rich client application built in JavaScript. This particular rich client application is using Electron. For testing Electron applications, there are at least 3 different frameworks or tools that you can use for loading up the actual rich client itself, running it, and getting the contents out of it. I'm going to use Mocha Electron for this particular exercise. There are a couple of different ways to do that. You're welcome to use those. So those will just be a matter of learning how to use those particular APIs. So there's not a right and wrong with this. I'll just use Mocha. So I'm going to use Mocha with Chai and then the Mocha Electron package as a part of what we're doing here. Now, I hope to have fixed some of the code. There were a few problems in the original code I sent out. I hope to have fixed those by the time you get this code again. If I have not, I'm going to walk through what we need to do to actually fix it. So there were a couple of bugs inside the index.js file that we're going to need to fix. So I'm going to go through all of that here in this video. Hopefully you don't have to do some of that, but just in case, it's going to be there for you. All right, so we'll start off. We need to run npm I. We'll install our dependencies. And once this is done, we'll go ahead and run npm start as well, just to make sure that everything's working inside the application. There we go. So let's do npm start. This is the script to actually run it as an Electron app. There it goes. It loads up, and we get our error that we can't find prod data 01. So everything's working well there. All right, so let's start off, and we're going to start with our tests. Let me go and just do our npm I. This is going to be Mocha, Chai, and Mocha Electron. These will all be the dev dependencies. So I'm going to go ahead and run all of these at once because I'm going to want all of them. Go ahead and create our test folder while we're waiting, and our test file. Import expect from Chai, describe, trade shipments test, that's fine. It should load shipments successfully. I'm going to leave this as async. I actually know that it needs to be async, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that as async. We're going to want that. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to change this to an anonymous function instead of a lambda. And we're going to need to set the timeout. And let's go, I don't know, about 10 seconds seems about right. The reason for that is we're connecting to a database, and that timeout can take a couple of seconds. So this is going to time out after 2 seconds. So we want to extend that so that the test is going to take a little longer. This is a JavaScript thing. JavaScript tests in general will fail after usually 1 or 2 seconds, depending on the test framework. So a lot of times you'll have to, especially if you're actually connecting to a database that may not exist, you'll need to increase the timeout on a test. So that is very much a JavaScript thing. All right, so now that we've got that up, what we need to do is we effectively need to go into app. So this Electron app, we need to make sure it gets ready. So this is just learning how to use Mocha Electron to run through everything. So let me pause there. Mocha Electron, we need to set our package JSON to use that for testing. So this is going to be, I'm going to pull from my notes, this is going to be, the command is npx electron mocha. I think I've been saying Mocha Electron, Electron Mocha. So that's the command for running Electron Mocha. And let me make sure, yeah, I switched that. So let me uninstall. It would help if you could spell, Chad. There we go. And we want npm I Electron Mocha. Apparently there's a Mocha Electron as well. That is not the package I want. All right, there we go. That looks better. So there's our Electron Mocha. There's our command. So when we run npm test, it's going to run npx Electron Mocha. So that way it runs as a part of the Electron Mocha. So this is running Mocha tests in an Electron environment rather than a node environment. Now that's important. So we need that in order to make sure that we can actually load up the UI. All right, so now that we have that, we've got this ready to go. We can run our tests. So if I just do npm test really quick, it's running Electron Mocha. All right, nothing's happening. Everything's passing. We're in good shape. All right, so let's go ahead and start diving into our test. What we're going to need to do is effectively we need to create our window. So go back here. So this is the first thing that I need to change. I hope that I've changed this, but we're going to need a return when. So we're going to need that window that we created as a part of create window. Then we need to make sure that we export this create window. Now the create window, this export may not be there, so you may need to add that because we're not generally using the export or the create window outside of this class. So this is certainly something you'll likely need to do. I probably won't have added that code in, but you do need to return this when object from here. So if I didn't have that in the code that you have, make sure you add this return statement. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and import that. So import create window is exactly, that is not the right path. There we go. So just back one and then to index.js. All right, so let's create this const create window, and we want to effectively get the data from the window. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to wait, and we're going to create a promise, resolve, and this will be win.webcontents did finish load. So this is going to say once it did finish the load, we'll move on. So this is just a promise to await the window loading to be done. And then from here, we're going to get, let's just get the contents, the HTML contents. Let's approve that this works. Await, when web contents execute. And here, yep, we'll just get the outer HTML from the document. So this is going to execute some JavaScript. And in this particular case, it's going to execute getting the outer HTML from the document element. This is going to run in the browser environment and give us that HTML. So let's just log that off just so we can see what that looks like and see if it works. So let's run this. I'm going to expect, all right, so it popped up, it ran, it closed really fast. So we are running in the environment. There's our HTML. Now what you'll notice is this HTML is saying a file not found. So it could not find index.html, and it's looking, you'll notice it's looking in the node modules. So we have a problem here, and really, again, I hope that I will have fixed this for you. You may not run into this problem, but if you do, the problem is in index.js, load file is loading index, this is in the create window method, it's loading index.html from wherever the current folder is. We need to change this. We need to basically use the current directory. So I'll say join dir name with index.html. That way it's this particular index.html rather than an index.html wherever we are. So let's run this again now. All right, so now we're passing, we're getting, this is looking right. So we've got a bunch of JavaScript in here. If I look in index.html, that's exactly what we have. So it is actually rendering this out. That's looking good. We're in good shape so far. So now that I've got that, I want to be able to effectively wait for the window to load. And right now it's not doing that. So let's comment this out. We know we don't need this anymore, but I'm going to leave that in just so you can see that if you need to use it again, it's there. For here, what we want to do is we're going to wait for the window to finish loading. There's a loading image, and we want that loading image to go away, and we know it's done. So from here, we basically need to pull that thing to see, we're going to call into a JavaScript function in the index.html to say, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? And when you are, then I'm going to close it out. So we'll say let is finished. Let's say is loaded. So this will equal true. We'll start off with true. And let's get the start time. That'll be now. And it might be helping us out. So let me just pull this in. I don't want to go 8 seconds. Just say 5 seconds. So wait no more than 5 seconds. So if loading, if it is loading, and if now minus start is less than 5,000. So as long as it hasn't been 5,000 seconds, or 5 seconds, 5,000 milliseconds, we will, okay, so we can kind of do that. What I want to do instead is I'm just going to call a function. We'll say is loading. We're going to create a function called isLoading and execute that. So let's go into our index.html now. And we're going to create a JavaScript function, isLoading. And yep, that looks right. So we'll say if the loading image is block, which means it's displayed, then it's loading. If that loading image isn't there, it's not loading. Now I know this because when we refresh, the first thing we do is we find the loading image and we set it to block. And then at the end of it, when we display the schedule, we set the loading image display to none. So this is an indicator. It's not a great indicator, but again, I'm trying to minimize the changes to the code until I have a good test. It would be ideal that I would create a variable and then tie both of those to the same variable to say I'm loading. But until I can do that, this is a good enough for now. I can always come back and change how this is loading is implemented. So there's our is loading. Now, if it is loading, we will wait and we'll just time out. I'll do 100 milliseconds. So we'll give it a little bit of a pause for 1/10 of a second and then do it again. That way we're not doing it actively every single millisecond. It's giving us some time between these calls. So that is going to basically wait. So let me just make a comment, wait for loading to complete. Once that's done, I now should be able to get the rows. So let's say rows equals, and we're going to execute some JavaScript. Now here, what I can do is I can say document dot query selector all shipment. There you go. So it's looking for the shipment table ID. So again, you'll have to know what this structure looks like. But there's the shipments. So ID is shipments. There we go. So shipments. And then it's going to go to the body and then find the TR. So here's the T body. And then any TRs, which right now is empty, but these should be populated by the JavaScript once it makes the call, and there should be some of those. So that'll give me the array of rows. And now all I can do is I can say expect rows to have length Let's see, length, let's say three rows. We'll force it out. All right, so there's our rows. Let's go ahead and run our test again. All right, so we have a script error. Let's see what we did here. Is loading. Oh, I need to save index.html. That would help. Let's try that again. There we go. So now we have our loading. It's waiting. It's polling. And then once it comes back, it's doing our assertion. Now it said expected 0 to have property length. Okay, so rows, this is actually coming back. Oh, this is giving me the length instead of the actual rows. Gotcha. I didn't read the AI code. So this is going to be row length. That's fine. We'll just say row length. We'll expect row length to equal 3. All right, let's try that again. Wait a couple of seconds for the connection. All right, there we go. So we're failing because it came back, because it errored out. So let me show what it looks like when it succeeds. So we'll assume that it errors out. And there we go, and it passes. So now I've confirmed that we do get an error message. I could do some additional assertions and say, is there a message there? I could check the actual HTML. I could do a JavaScript function to basically give me the information out of index.html. A few different ways to do that. Finally, the other thing that I can do is I can actually click on a link. So let's say I wanted to click the refresh link. Again, there's a few different ways to do that. I could create a JavaScript function and call it that way. I could use the document, select by tag name or by class name, and then find that element and then click it through the JavaScript. So a few different ways that we can do this. I'll just do the simple way, which is just create a function. I say that. Yeah, let's just do the simple way. So we'll say function, click, refresh, link. So it's going to say query selector, get the refresh link, and click. Now I could put this code directly in my web contents execute JavaScript here, or I could call click refresh link. Either way will work. So let me show both of those really fast. So now we'll say win.webcontents, and this will need to await. Win.webcontents, execute JavaScript, click refresh link. So this will actually click the refresh link. So this should take a little longer because it's going to load again. Oh, I didn't save the file again. There we go. All right, so there it finishes. And I click the link again, and then we're all good. So that's one way. The other is I can actually use this particular text and put it directly inside here. I'll just need to change these to different quotation marks. And this will actually find it and directly click it. So we'll run this one. And it also runs it just like it did before. So that takes us through. We now know how to load up a window. So a couple of things you might have to change on the index.js file to get it to work. We now know how to make that happen. We're loading that window up. We're waiting for it to finish loading. You can get the HTML using the outer HTML here. We can now wait for something to happen, so some sort of polling, but again, you'll need to tie that to a JavaScript function so you can query it. And then we also know how to now interact with the actual contents to get data out of it and or interact with it and click some links.